The silence that fell over the Gilded Spoon, London's most exclusive restaurant, was so thick it seemed to have weight. Conversation ceased. Cutlery froze in midair. Dozens of eyes fixed on the small space between the tables. 10-year-old Elias Grant was visibly shaking. His legs, trapped in metal braces, wavered as he reached out to Nathan Carter, the restaurant's only black waiter. The live jazz trio had just begun a soft, improvisational melody, and the boy's impulse to ask someone to dance came without warning. "Sir, control your son." Manager S's sharp voice cut through the silence. "That's inappropriate." Vivian Grant, CEO of Grant Global and one of the wealthiest women in the country, swallowed hard. It was the first time she had taken Elias out to dinner in public since the accident that had partially paralyzed his legs 2 years earlier. "Elias, sit down." The order came low but firm. Nathan remained motionless, his gaze shifting between the manager, the billionaire, and the boy. In his 5 years working there, he had learned to become invisible, especially to customers like Vivian Grant, whose foundation had once briefly dismissed a proposal from a community project he co-founded. "Ma'am, I'm leaving. My shift is over." His voice sounded calm as he removed his crisp white jacket. To everyone's amazement, he smiled at Elias and took his hand. "Can't dance in a jacket, can I?" Vivian stood up abruptly. "What do you think you're doing?" Nathan held her gaze. "I'm accepting an invitation, ma'am." Before anyone could interfere, Elias took a hesitant step forward. His foot dragged painfully across the floor, and the metal of his braces screeched. But Nathan didn't try to guide him. He simply adjusted his own pace. "He's getting fired tomorrow," whispered a man. Vivian watched, paralyzed. A sudden memory struck her. Daniel, her late husband, dancing with Elias. "It's about connection," he had said. As Nathan followed Elias's clumsy steps, fear gave way to intense concentration in the boy's eyes. Shame gave way to shy pride. For the first time since the accident, he wasn't being guided. He was leading. "Ms. Grant," the manager's voice interrupted. "I assure you this will never happen again." Vivian didn't respond. Elias's smile, however, was the only sound that echoed in her mind. Nathan led the boy back to the table after 3 dance steps. "Thank you for asking me out," he said formally. "It was an honor." When he turned to leave, Vivian stopped him. "Wait!" Her voice sounded different. "What's your full name?" "Nathan Carter, ma'am." Vivian nodded slowly. "Nathan Carter," she repeated. Then she took a card from her jacket and held it out. "My office. Tomorrow, at 10 a.m. The entire restaurant held its breath. Nathan accepted the card without showing emotion, but his hand trembled slightly. "Mom," Elias called as he walked away, "why did you do that?" The question hung in the air. Vivian watched her son and for a brief moment saw a complete human being whose wants and needs she had systematically ignored. As dinner proceeded, no one noticed Nathan's calm determination as he left, contrasting with the storm brewing in Vivian Grant's eyes. The lobby of Grant House sparkled. Nathan Carter felt out of place in his best outfit. "Nathan Carter to see Ms. Grant," he told the receptionist. "18th floor. Mr. Langford will see you in the elevator." Nathan took a deep breath. It wasn't fear he felt, it was quiet determination. Mr. Langford, a man in his 40s, led him down a mirrored hallway. "Ms. Grant is in a conference call. Please follow me." As he walked, Nathan noticed the glances. A black man being escorted through executive offices was rare. "She had you fired, didn't she?" Langford asked suddenly in a waiting room. "It happens. Powerful clients call, and people like you lose their jobs. Employees who don't know their place." Nathan smiled, not amused. "And where exactly would that be?" Before Langford could answer, his phone rang. "She'll see you now." Vivian Grant's office took up half the floor. Through floor-to-ceiling windows, London looked like her personal property. "Ms. Grant," Nathan greeted her. Vivian turned, a mask of control. "Mr. Carter, thank you for coming." She pointed to a chair. The silence that followed was calculated. "Do you have a background?" Vivian asked. "Education." "College?" Nathan kept his gaze steady. "Bachelor's degree in child. Psychology from UCL. Incomplete master's. In adaptive movement therapies." Something flickered across Vivian's face. "And you work as a waiter?" "I work 3 jobs. The restaurant. A charity shop. And as a support worker, Vivian picked up a folder. I did some research on you. I wanted to understand who the person was who, she hesitated, danced with my son. She opened the folder, revealing photos of a community center, Movement Works, which he co-founded. Nathan sat up straighter. I co-founded it with my brother Marcus, a movement program for children with physical disabilities. Vivian leafed through the documents. Which is now about to close due to lack of funding. Nathan showed no surprise. I didn't come here to ask you for money. Then why did you come? Because you invited me. Vivian laughed softly. Fair enough. She stood. I want you to work for me. Nathan blinked. As a waiter? In your house? Vivian's face hardened. As a therapeutic companion? For Elias, her son's name seemed difficult for her to say. Nathan noticed her eyes drift toward a photo, her late husband Daniel, smiling, holding a baby. I have the best specialists, she continued, but what you did yesterday... She paused. It was just a dance. It was the first time I've seen him smile since the accident. The admission was painful. I don't want a dancer for my son. I want someone who can do what you did, follow, not lead. Nathan studied the woman behind the title. Beneath the power, he saw something else. A desperate, lost mother. I can pay you 5 times what you're making now, Vivian offered. Nathan stood up. No. Vivian looked shocked. I don't work for people who see only my color or social class before competence, he explained. And I don't work for people who try to buy solutions to emotional problems, especially after their foundation reviewed and dismissed. My methodologies years ago. Vivian's face flushed. Nathan had come prepared. You're turning down an offer that would solve your financial problems? Out of pride? Out of dignity, Nathan corrected. And because your son deserves more than someone hired to pretend to care. He walked to the door, then paused. Elias doesn't need more experts. He needs space to lead his own life. You don't know my son. No, Nathan agreed. But I know people like him. People whose physical limitations are nothing compared to the invisible. Cages we build around them. He took a card from his wallet and placed it on the table. Movement Works classes are on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 4 p.m. If you'd like to bring Elias, the first class is free. As Nathan left, he passed Mr. Langford, who had clearly been listening. You just turned down an offer from Vivian Grant, he whispered. Are you crazy? Nathan smiled. Maybe, but I'd rather be crazy than be property. The following Wednesday, Nathan was at the community center reception when Marcus, his brother, came running up. There's a Rolls-Royce parked outside, he whispered nervously. And you won't believe who's inside. Through the window, Nathan saw the car. Elias was in the back seat. Vivian Grant remained in the driver's seat. She's not coming in, Marcus predicted. Women like her don't come to places like this. Nathan smiled. Don't underestimate a determined son. As they watched, the car door opened. Elias got out. Then Vivian got out too. She looked completely out of place in her casual clothes, still screaming privilege. I told you she'd come, Nathan murmured. Marcus stared. What did you do? Nathan didn't answer, but his eyes sparkled. In his apartment was a notebook filled with notes about children like Elias and women like Vivian Grant. Years of observation, years of quiet research. A plan that began with a single dance. Vivian Grant didn't yet know that Nathan Carter wasn't just a waiter. He was a man with a mission. And her empire of isolation was about to face its greatest challenge. The truth that some lessons cannot be bought. They must be lived. Movement Works operated out of an old community warehouse. Handmade posters decorated the walls. When Vivian and Elias entered, children with mobility devices were practicing movements in the center of the room. Ms. Grant, Nathan approached. Welcome. Elias watched the children in awe. It looks chaotic, Vivian commented. There is structure, Nathan replied. It's just not the one you recognize. He turned to Elias. Would you like to join in? The boy nodded. Go on, Vivian said tensely. I'll be right here. As Nathan guided Elias toward the group, Marcus offered Vivian a chair. The first day is always the hardest, he commented. For the parents. This isn't therapy, Vivian argued. I've hired the best rehabilitation specialists. And how has that been working for Elias? Marcus asked gently. Before she could respond, the studio door opened and an older man entered, leaning on an ornate cane. "Dr. Ian Rowe," Marcus whispered. "A neuroscientist specializing in brain plasticity. Retired from Oxford." Dr. Rowe greeted children with a warm familiarity before noticing Vivian. "Miss Grant, you've rejected my research proposal 3 times," he stated, matter of fact. "Dr. Rowe, I didn't expect to see you here," Vivian replied. "I oversee the research program here," he explained. Vivian frowned. "I thought this was just a community dance class," Nathan returned. Movement Works is a pilot motor rehabilitation program based on movement autonomy, he explained. "We integrate adaptive dance with neuroscientific principles." "Why do you work as a waiter if you lead a research program?" Vivian asked. "Because we don't have adequate funding yet," Nathan said. "And because people like you rejected us 3 times. The penny dropped. "You were Dr. Rowe's assistant," Vivian concluded. Dr. Rowe corrected her. "Nathan has an incomplete master's degree because he had to leave college to take care of his family, but his theoretical work is groundbreaking. He was my lead researcher on those proposals you dismissed." "You knew who I was at the restaurant?" Vivian asked. "From the moment you walked in," Nathan confirmed. "And when Elias got up to dance, I recognized the opportunity to show, not tell." "Was it staged?" "The dance? Absolutely not. Elias chose to get up. I chose to follow." A group of reporters entered the space. Vivian immediately tensed. "What's this? Part 2 of the plan?" Nathan smiled. Marcus showed Vivian a newly published article. "Revolutionary motor rehabilitation methodology shows promising results." "We've published our first results today," Dr. Rowe explained. "And we invited the press." "You used my son for a public relations stunt," Vivian said, her voice like ice. Nathan led her into a side room with photos of children. On the last wall was an empty frame. "What's that?" she asked. "Our future," Nathan replied. "The full rehabilitation center we could build. 500 children a year instead of 50. "You orchestrated all this," Vivian muttered. "The dance. The meeting. Bringing me here. On press day, I saw an opportunity," Nathan said. 4 months ago when you canceled our meeting. I promised myself I'd fight for this." "And win," Vivian whispered. Marcus interrupted urgently. "It's Elias." They rushed back into the main studio. Elias stood in the center of the room, surrounded by other children. Someone had turned off the music. A hush fell over the space. The boy had removed one of his braces. He was trying to balance on one support. "Elias," Vivian started forward instinctively. But Nathan stopped her with a whisper. "Wait, watch." Elias took a deep breath, focused. And then, to everyone's amazement, he took a complete step. Without full support, no guidance, no hand-holding, no brace. It was small, shaky, imperfect, but it was entirely his. The children erupted in cheers. Camera flashes went off. Vivian's face, usually composed and sharp, was now exposed. Her eyes shimmered. "Tears. That's why we created Movement Works," Nathan said softly. "It's not about perfect steps. It's about first steps on your own." Vivian watched her son. Not as a problem, not as a project. As a complete person, discovering his own strength. "This could have been done without manipulating me," she said, voice trembling. "It could have been," Nathan agreed, "if you had answered our calls or read our proposals. 3 times!" The reporters noticed her. Vivian, still stunned, said nothing. In the background, Elias, oblivious, continued practicing. Vivian Grant was cornered. She faced 2 options. Withdraw in anger, confirming her reputation as cold and calculating, or embrace the moment her son had created. She found herself in unfamiliar territory. Her gaze shifted between Elias, smiling, and the flashing cameras. Between truth and control. Humility had never been a word in her vocabulary. But in this moment, something cracked. The orchestra of power and privilege she was accustomed to had changed tune. Vivian Grant turned toward the reporters. Her face composed, her voice steady, but softer than before. "Ms. Grant," a reporter approached. "Could you comment on your presence at Movement Works? Is it true your foundation rejected funding for this program?" Vivian glanced at her son. Then, to everyone's surprise, she smiled. "You know what's hardest for someone in my position?" she asked, turning to the cameras. admitting when we're wrong. A stunned silence filled the room. The Grant Foundation is pleased to announce a commitment to fully fund Movement Works for the next 5 years, she continued, and to build a permanent rehabilitation center based on the methodology developed by Dr. Ian Rowe and Mr. Nathan Carter. Camera flashes exploded. Journalists leaned in. Marcus let out a barely contained breath of surprise. Vivian raised a hand. On one condition. Everyone stilled. She looked directly at Nathan. That Mr. Carter retains complete autonomy over the program and its methodology. No corporate interference. Because, she paused, her eyes steady, it's clear that true leadership here lies in following. 3 months later, bulldozers were clearing ground for the new Movement Works Rehabilitation Center. It wasn't the most luxurious project in the city, but it was the most innovative. Every inch of its design was shaped with input from children and families. Nathan Carter supervised construction frequently. Elias showed up regularly. And, to the surprise of nearly everyone, so did Vivian Grant. She didn't speak much, but she observed, watched, listened. I never thought you'd actually show up at board meetings, Nathan said one afternoon. I never thought I'd have to study neuroplasticity at 50, Vivian replied, rubbing her tired eyes. A scientific article sat in front of her, its margins marked with notes. But here we are. Nathan looked at her for a long moment. Is this part of your public penance? He asked. Or do you really care? Vivian was quiet. Elias asked to have his second brace removed last week, she said finally. His previous physical therapist said, that would be impossible for at least 2 years. Nathan smiled. But you fired her, remember? Because you told me she was wrong. Vivian nodded slowly. And she was. Nathan pointed to a photo pinned on the wall, Elias balancing with one crutch. He's progressing faster than any traditional medical prediction. Vivian looked at it, then looked away. Why did you never accept my apology? She asked suddenly. Because you never apologized, Nathan answered calmly. You redirected resources, changed policies, funded our program. He paused. That's not an apology. That's compensation. Vivian looked down, her voice quiet. Fair. At the opening ceremony 6 months later, the contrast with the night at the Gilded Spoon couldn't have been greater. The new adaptive studio gleamed with sunlight. Music played. Children laughed. In the center, Elias, now wearing only a lightweight brace, led a choreographed routine. His movements flowed with confidence. Vivian watched from a distance. He doesn't need you to hold him anymore, Nathan said gently. No, Vivian agreed. But he still needs me to be around. She turned to Nathan. Crucial difference. Nathan smiled. Vivian hesitated. Thank you, she said. For what exactly? For teaching me to follow. A reporter approached. Ms. Grant, how does it feel to see your son's progress? Vivian looked at Elias, who was now helping a younger boy adjust his balance. Proud, she said. Not of what he's overcome, but of what he's created for others. And what's been the biggest lesson you've learned? The reporter asked. Vivian Grant, known for her financial empire, her control, her composure, looked straight into the camera. The true leaders, she said slowly, aren't those who guide others down the path they believe is right, but those who have the courage to follow when someone shows them a better way. The moment was genuine, and it spread like wildfire. A year later, Movement Works expanded to 3 new cities. Nathan Carter received the Pediatric Rehabilitation Innovation Award. Elias, now using only a light cane on difficult days, enrolled in regular school and became a youth spokesperson for the program. That helped him stand again. Vivian Grant, once an emblem of corporate detachment, was learning the hardest and most valuable lesson of her life. That true power lies not in controlling every move, but in knowing when to step back and let others lead. In a world where powerful people rarely change, and those without power often remain in the shadows, the story of Vivian, Nathan, and Elias reminds us that transformation happens when we cross invisible boundaries, when a billionaire learns from a waiter, when a mother follows in her son's footsteps. If this story about how a simple gesture of dignity changed lives, forever touched your heart, don't forget to share it, because the most profound revolutions don't start with grand manifestos or billion-dollar fortunes. They start when someone takes an authentic first step, and someone else has the wisdom to follow.